Welcome back to the StingyTrigger tabletop for part 2 of our review of the H&K VP70Z. Moving on from ergonomics to track record, I can tell you that this is an extremely reliable, durable, and accurate pistol. It lives up to the name of its maker, Heckler and Koch, for producing one of the finest firearms that I personally have ever fired. Now, when it comes to reliability, there are two things that have contributed to the advantage of this particular pistol. One is, again, that H&K style double feed lip magazine, and I'm going to take this apart real quick here so you can see it. Actually, I'm just going to do this off camera real quick so I can do it quickly. The other item that greatly features in the reliability of this handgun is that very, very wide feed ramp that you see right there. Look at the size of that thing. It's fully a half-inch across at the bottom. That is twice the size of your average feed ramp going up into the chamber of most firearms that you can find nowadays. And that has a great advantage for this particular gun, especially considering the width of the magazines that it's feeding from. But the other added benefit is that it's so wide and it's so shallow of a feed ramp is that it simply accepts and takes and chambers any type of round you can give it. This particular model I've put in excess of 800, closing in on 900 rounds through this handgun in testing, and I have tried every single different kind of ammunition I could lay my hands on. Brass cased, I shot full metal jackets, hard lead, soft lead, wad cutters, ballistic tips, a bunch of different kinds of hollow points. I shot hollow point aluminum, solid nose aluminum, full metal jacket aluminum. I shot steel cased ammo. I shot government surplus. I shot reloads. I shot some Chinese stuff that I was able to pick up at a gun show that came through my area. In short, it has not mattered what kind of ammunition I gave this gun. Between that 20-pound striker slamming home, the nice double feed lips coming off the magazine, and that big wide feed ramp in there, it never failed to go into battery once, it never failed to fire once, it never failed to chamber or eject. It simply ate every round it was given and shot it. I tried and tried, and I'm not saying somebody won't have a problem with one from time to time, but just out of the box, an H&K VP70 is up there in my top 5 all-time most reliable pistols that I have shot. When I pull the trigger on this gun, I know almost 99.99999% assuredly it's gonna go bang, presuming I didn't do something to dick it up. Now again, coming back to durability, we touched on it a bit before. This gun was built in the days before MIM'd parts, so it's all forged German metal components, heavy military grade parkerization, heavy military grade bluing. It is a top of the line pistol in terms of quality of its manufacture and quality of the materials that have gone into it. And as a direct result, it's durable. This particular gun was made in 1986, and it has been shot not regularly, but a decent amount since then. And as of April in 2012, when I'm doing this review, this gun would happen to be in excess of 25 years old and still works like it's brand new, just came out of the box. Which moves us onto accuracy. Unfortunately, I don't have any of my own test targets from the range, as I'm afraid we have the bad habit of shredding them with large volleys of fire, especially on days when we're there with the 22s. But I do have the original test target that came with the gun. Total of 6 rounds were fired back in 1984 when this was manufactured. You have 3 rounds there in a fairly decent group, and then 3 rounds in a 1-hole group. So in the hands of someone who is certainly very skilled, this is an extremely good, very high quality firearm. Extremely accurate and extremely reliable. So, moving on to value. First thing, and this is one of the sticking points of the VP70, is its cost. When these were first introduced, these were about $200 guns. Nowadays, you'll be lucky if you can find one for about $500. The best I've seen coming out, found on Gunbroker and at local gun shows, once you pay a transfer and sometimes shipping, is to get one for about $500, and it's not going to be in the greatest of shape. Usually to get one in decent shape, you're looking at more in the $600 to $650 range, and in the case of a really high quality one, like this one in front of you with both original magazines, this particular one has, in addition, the original test target, the original manual, and even the original warranty card. In the original box, you're looking at a lot more like $750 to $800. Now, I've managed to purchase this one for about $550. I was able to get it from a fellow collector and enthusiast of historic firearms, and he cut me a bit of a deal along with the trade. So I think I came out a little bit ahead, but if you were purchasing one straight up, you should be prepared to pay at least in the $500 to $600 range, possibly more, depending upon quality of the particular firearm you're purchasing. Moving on then, comes to accessories. Now, unfortunately, even though this did have a 16-year service life in terms of production, there aren't a ton of accessories that are out there. Again, this premiered during the days of the revolver, when the most bought and fired gun was still the .38 Special, certainly in police forces in the United States, certainly in the civilian market. This was the era of Dirty Harry and the .44 Magnum and the .357 Python revolvers, of the single 6 and the security 6 and so on. The markets simply were not ready at the time for a semi-automatic mass-produced handgun. Remember, yes, there were ones out there, but this is largely in the days before the Glock, before the Beretta, before the SIG, before a lot of major departments switched off of the revolver and onto a semi-automatic format. It was largely seen as a military handgun. As such, there's not a heck of a lot of accessories out there. One of the few things I did find that fits, go down over here on the tabletop, is just one of your basic Black Hawk Walmart holsters. It's a standard nylon holster rig, and we basically have to go with items that are pretty generic. And as you can see, it fits fairly well. However, outside of really custom work, you're not going to find a whole heck of a lot that's available on the market. You're not going to be able to go to Galco or to Crossbreed or to any of the major holster manufacturers and get an off-the-shelf holster. You're going to have to find a leather worker to do some custom work if you want to be able to carry this, say, on your hip at your 3 o'clock, and certainly in an under-the-shoulder configuration. Outside of magazines, there's also not a lot of accessories. There were never threaded barrels made for it. A lot of the toys that we associate with higher-end pistols, there's obviously no rail on it, so there's no accessories to be had there. You could possibly, I suppose, drill and tap an accessory rail onto the top, perhaps for a scope, but personally, given the historical significance of these firearms, I think I would much rather keep it original and all stock. So there's not a ton of accessories that are out there, unfortunately. Which brings us, of course, to enjoyment and fun factor. And when it comes to fun factor, this is in fact a great pistol that's a lot of fun. As a couple of the other reviewers out there that I'm a fan of refer to it as a second kind of cool gun. You're not necessarily going to want to shoot this, as I said, as a day-to-day carry weapon. There are simply better options with better triggers and better handling that are out there these days, as well as more readily available replacement parts should something go wrong. Similarly, this is not going to be a go-to-war gun, or for that matter, even really a home defense gun, without the ability to affix a laser sight or a flashlight to it. It's largely going to be relegated to the realm of a fun shooter, of a safe gun, or perhaps as a display piece if you're a historical enthusiast such as myself. Which kind of touches on our next point a little bit, of intended use. And as I said, I wouldn't make it an everyday carry, but it is still extremely reliable. If you're looking especially for something that perhaps this is going to be a truck gun, if you found one in rather poor cosmetic shape, you simply need something that you can keep in a vehicle and not have to worry about, but also be assured that it is going to shoot whenever you pull the trigger. If you absolutely have to defend yourself, then this probably isn't that bad of an option. But ultimately, this is a fun shooting gun, this is an heirloom gun that you pass down, and this is the kind of gun that you would put in a display piece. Which, of course, brings me to the reason why that some of these guns have gone for way more than they probably should, and why the market for them is somewhat inflated. I'm going to roll in a few pictures here at this time while I'm talking so you can see what I'm talking about. Back in 1986, James Cameron released a little film called Aliens, and as you all know, the main weapon of the Colonial Marines and Aliens was the M1A1 pulse rifle. It was actually manufactured out of a combination of milled aluminum housings, a Thompson submachine gun, and a Remington 870. And there's some great little tutorials you can find online of how to build one of your own if you actually have the nerve to combine two guns into one and risk the wrath of your fellow firearms enthusiasts for cutting up a Thompson. However, second to that, James Cameron wanted all the Marines to be armed with a sidearm. And with a couple of notable exceptions, they all carried the H&K VP70. I'm going to roll in here a picture of Lieutenant Gorman, very frequently featured with the VP70. We've also got Private Frost here with the VP70. Every one of the Marines, like I said, outside of a couple, that pulled a handgun and used it to defend themselves in the air ducts, crawling through the station, going through the reactor housing, they were shooting the H&K VP70. And it was chosen for the exact reasons that you might think. James Cameron wanted a gun that looked futuristic. He wanted a space gun. And at the time, this was the most futuristic option available, and I think the argument can be made with a notable few exceptions, perhaps some of the more recent XD line or some of the more tricked out customized guns that are nowadays available. The VP70 is about as close as you can get to a gun that you would expect to see in a sci-fi movie coming straight out of the box. And that, of course, is why the price sometimes for these climbs quite high when the Aliens fans realized, wait, as a citizen of the United States, I can go purchase a gun that I saw in one of my favorite movies, and I don't have to do anything special to it, or it doesn't require a permit. I can just get it right out of the box and go shoot it. As a result, a lot of these VP70s go for quite a few dollars more than they probably should. So overall, it's a fun gun, it's a reliable gun, there's not a heck of a lot in the way of accessories, and it can be a little bit pricey. But if you're looking for a piece of history that you can shoot reliably, that you can pass on to younger generations, that you can put as a showpiece, you could do a heck of a lot worse than the H&K VP70. As always, thanks for watching. Please subscribe for more fun gun and project videos. And as always, this is Trigger here saying, just remember, we're just a couple of city slickers figuring this out as we go along. Thanks for watching.